Last year's Horathon, we discussed Nosferatu in anticipation for the remake. And per usual, I like to start off the year with a true classic. One of the big ones we've yet to discuss is Phantom of the Opera, which turned 100 years old just a few days ago. This right here is one of the most important granddaddies of the horror genre. Phantom of the Opera had its share of weird adaptations. The most famous one is the musical, which really isn't my scene, but I respect it enough. That in turn was translated into a film by Joel Schumacher, which was okay. That really popularized the one-eye, half-mask image of the Phantom, which really isn't nearly as cool as the original Beast. I believe this earliest change came about in the 1940s Phantom with Claude Rains, where they changed Eric into a normal guy who just gets scummed over by someone stealing his work or whatever they changed the background to be, and then getting acid or fire thrown onto his face, driving him crazy. Oh, so that's where Two-Face came from. Well, the original wasn't like that. The original Eric was a lot more sympathetic, in my opinion. He was someone born without having a chance at life. He was born deformed and hated by his parents, never knowing a mother's love, and basically abandoned by them. He is someone who was conditioned by his whole life to turn out like he did. And only one film, to my knowledge, truly captured the original image of the Phantom. There are many cuts and recuts, different release dates for this film, and truthfully, it's a miracle we even have this at all. It was thought to have been lost at one point, but some great people were able to stitch it together to what we believe is as close as you'll get to seeing the proper film. The version I'll be using for this is the Blu-ray release by Kino Classics, which in itself contains many different versions. Interestingly, this film is actually public domain, and it has been since 1953. Universal never renewed the rights, I suppose in favor of their newer versions at the time. The story goes that Karl went to France, where he met the author of Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux, who gave him a copy of the book. Karl read it in a night and immediately got the film rights. The production was not a very smooth one. The original script was near identical to the book, but was met with many revisions, such as changing the ending of the film, having to be shot many times, and this was an American production by Universal, which many of the crew had no idea what the Paris Opera looked like or how to recreate it. They reached out to a French art director who helped give them both a realistic look while working with much of the fantastical descriptions in the novel. Even more concerning, the director Rupert Julian and star Lon Chaney didn't get along very well. Actually, they didn't get along at all, and it was strenuous. The set for the opera needed to be something that could hold hundreds of extras, so the construction of Soundstage 28 was commissioned. This set is deeply embedded, not just in horror history, but in film history. Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, The Raven, Psycho, The Birds, goddamn The Mask. For decades, this set was used for many iconic films and was available for touring at Universal until they demolished it for some attraction that I think they're still building now. Literal film history was destroyed for some cheap ride. I don't know, maybe it was rotting away, unsalvageable. I'd never been there. I would have killed to have gone to see that, but never gonna get that chance. Eric himself was played by the man of 1,000 faces, Lon Chaney, the actor who pioneered monster effects and makeup effects in general, specialized in playing the tortured souls in film and giving them sympathetic outlooks, allowing the audience to see them more than just grotesque, but rather human. Chaney had deaf parents and learned how to communicate with his body language and sign language, which works great for acting in the silent era, in which you really need to convey your abilities without the use of dialogue. His makeup techniques were just unbelievable for the time. He had grown quite famous for his work in Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Dame, and it was a no-brainer to have him be Eric, to give the Phantom his first face. And it is one of the most iconic, memorable, identifiable, important images of film history. Now, this was a very primitive time for makeup effects, and it didn't come without sacrifice. there was some wire work done in the makeup, I believe with the nostrils, that actually did tear up Chaney's face, and it bled like hell. It's said that when his face was revealed for the first time, audiences screamed, and some even fainted. Crazy to think about that now, considering how desensitized we are to movies. I mean, sure, we can look at this today and think, that's pretty tame, but I don't know, I think that this still holds up pretty intensely given how tangible it is. This is undoubtedly the most exciting part of the film, no matter how many times you see it. The masterful timing, the building of suspense, the unaware audience of what lies behind there. Everybody has that same collective idea. What is behind that mask? What does he look like, assuming that they haven't already seen the images? Maybe the excitement from those who read the novel, wondering what it's going to look like on screen. There was a story, and I don't know how true this is, probably not very, that nobody on set knew how Chaney was going to look, that he kept it pretty secret even to the crew, and when they did the reveal, it actually scared a lot of people on set behind the camera too. The general story is immensely simple. You have a young, talented, and beautiful singer, Christine. The Phantom realizes her talent and demands that the opera house managers allow her to take the lead role instead of the prima donna. Christine has quite a dilemma presented to her. There is Raoul, her lover, who wishes to marry her, but he also doesn't really have much appreciation for music, and he wants her to retire so that she could be his little trophy housewife. Then you have Eric, who wishes to train her and wants to see her career succeed initially. His actions aren't exactly noble, like dropping a giant chandelier on the audience. It's not even the people behind the show, he just dropped it on some innocent viewers. Eric, afraid of his appearance, portrays himself like a spirit to Christine, teaching her. Eventually, after committing a presumable mass murder, he entices Christine into his secret catacomb lair. This is where we can really spotlight Chaney's acting skills. We focus on Christine as she's soaking in the wondrous sight of, basement, and then the Phantom's hand enters the frame. Or I should say Eric's. It's soft and gentle, the complete opposite of how he reacts with the rest of the world. Speaking to her through the walls, they formed a bond together. You can see his doubt, his reluctance to show himself. He knows what happens when others see him, but this is someone he doesn't want to lose or scare away. He finds his confidence and attracts her attention, all from a little bit of hand acting, and the result is to be expected. Although Christine is frightened by his strange appearance, he still shows her kindness, hoping for her to see past his looks. I'm unsure if this out-of-focus shot was an accident or something with the restoration, but if it isn't, this is a great way to demonstrate Christine's perspective of the Phantom. I mean, look at the actress. She looks zoinked. Also, there's a horse down here. The set design is phenomenal. I especially love this shot of the horse going down in this almost dollhouse-like construction, showing this dreamlike perspective, descending into the Phantom's realm, a world completely opposite of the above one. We go from riding a horse to a boat, all in the same area. Eric leads Christine to his chambers, which is rather cozy in a gothic way. And this is where Eric makes things uncomfortable, overwhelming Christine with his intense emotions that turn rather predatory. Christine really got no luck with men. At least with Eric, he is a tortured, demented soul. This guy's just a prick. Chaney's bipolar performance interweaves all of Eric's emotions from psychotic to lonely to sad to yearning, showing Christine the cold reality of his existence. Eric has some misconstrued concepts of relationships and really wants Christine to be more of a pet than a partner, although that's not how he sees it in his own head. And then drops one of the greatest lines of all time. If I am the Phantom, it is because man's hatred has made me so. Yet again, the unmasking scene is another masterfully crafted one. The tension is beautifully built up and Christine steadily attempts to reveal his face. Her curiosity, her slow cat-like movements. Don't mess up, don't get caught. Bam! History is made. And Chaney's performance here is nothing short of perfect. his rage, his sadness mixed into pure agony. The woman he admired has seen his real face. He is embarrassed, betrayed, and perhaps a tad bit relieved, leading into the most eye-grabbing sequence of the entire film. The almost in color masquerade. Here, Eric dresses up like the Red Death from the famous Edgar Allan Poe story. If we recall, the story was about a prince and his rich buddies having a rager while avoiding a plague that was overtaking the land. Readers get into fits on how to analyze that story, but the inescapability of death does seem like a plausible theme, and that's the one thing Eric shares with all these partygoers, no matter how different they may look. Here, they're all hidden behind masks. In Leroux's text, Eric states that he desires to live like everyone else. And while he may never get that luxury, they'll all share the same end result. It's also just a badass entrance. One night where Eric can really feel like a pimp, and the primitive coloring techniques highlighting the reds on screen really bring a new life to this sequence. We're still many years away from proper full-color film, so sequences like these are fascinating to see. What stands out to me even more is on the rooftop where Raoul promises to bring Christine to London after her next performance. We see the Phantom's heartbreak eavesdropping on their plans, and this might be my favorite shot in the entire film. The final act of the film is Eric's rage unleashed into the final performance. Look at that reveal. The Phantom abducts Christine during her performance, leading Raoul and the mysterious Persian, who in the film is actually a French detective, to his cellar home. This is where we see the best of the set designs of all the contraptions like the mirror room. All the while, Eric is trying to force Christine to be his bride. Unfortunately, the ending of the film does kind of fumble. In the original, Eric has a brief moment of redemption where he kisses and receives a kiss on the forehead from Christine, stating he's never been kissed before, not even from his own mother. Christine ironically responds with pity on him, like a dog. Eric then realizes that Christine is not a pet to keep on a leash, and thus returns her to free will, and then the Phantom dies from heartbreak? Although keep in mind in the book, Raoul actually did shoot him the night prior. I don't think he gets good medical down there. In the film, Eric is chased by a goddamn angry mob. Well, yeah, this was due to the changes because the initial ending just didn't work for audiences. And, yeah, that's underwhelming. But I do like this part where Eric feigns having a weapon in his hand. A showman until his final moments. Phantom is not a subtle movie, not like Nosferatu or even Caligari. It's really absurd, actually. Eric drags Christine down 5 cellars, and after then, she realizes he's the Phantom. Like, no shit. The Phantom drops a chandelier on a large crowd of people, and it's just not really a concern. It's greatly underplayed, and they have a goddamn ball the next night. The big argument with this movie is Phantom a good film, or is it just a good spectacle? Because on the technical level, it's perfect. The camera work, the set design, the gothic macabre setting recreates the nature of the novel in masterful craftsmanship. The tinted film sets the tone, and just look at the opening shot with the lamp. This is pure beauty. But the plot is absurd, and not all of the acting is ideal. Still, it's goddamn impressive for 100 years ago. This is the movie that really set the groundwork for Universal era of horror, which we could say starts with Dracula, and I did a video on that last year, but Phantom puts together the gothic atmosphere, the tropes, especially the mob at the end of the film. It definitely feels closer to taking form of the traditional classic horror movie that will follow suit. If we look at a few years prior with Hunchback, which is also a great film, but it feels more gruff, more gritty, and they're still figuring bits out. Phantom feels much more refined in its craftsmanship. It feels like we're watching a movie on the same level as Dracula or Frankenstein, outside of the fact that it's a silent film. I think it's the perfect bridge between, well, primitive and classic. And while Phantom has been adapted many times, nothing's come quite as close to the novel as this. I'd love to see a new film tackle Phantom of the Opera with the gothic vibes. I think it's possible. I mean, Edgar's did well with Nosferatu. Well, I do have problems with that movie. It's still a good film. I was really hoping that would bring this desire back for classic gothic horror. I wouldn't want Edgar's to do Phantom though, because knowing him, he'd probably turn the ending into some orgy with all the characters, or probably see Eric's leprosy cock flopping around all over the place. I feel like Phantom gets a little undermined. I mean, even though it's public domain, Universal still could include it in its collections, but they never do. And for me, this is one of the most important of the granddaddies of horror films, right there with Nosferatu and Caligari. In fact, if I had to make a holy trinity of the forming horror genre, it would be those three: Nosferatu, Caligari, and Phantom. And there are loads of spooky movies from the silent era, but they haven't really molded into the horror genre as we know it, as what would come with Dracula in 1931. So is Phantom of the Opera worth checking out 100 years later? Yes. And the film is public domain, so don't let its age scare you away. Check it out. It's a damn good one.